Hi guys, welcome back to Binge Watch Britney. So today we are finally wrapping up the series Nashville. So this is going to be on season 6, and it actually took me a while to go ahead and record this episode, mainly because of the way that I was recording the first 5 seasons. It just took a really long time, and so I just had to really restructure how I was doing these episodes so that it was more enjoyable and I was able to do more of them. And so I'm really excited because with the last season, I have added a few more songs to my country music playlist, and so I think I have about 10 to 12 songs that I really listen to on repeat, and then I have a few extra songs that I haven't really quite gotten into the way that I have with the first 10 to 12 songs, and so I really just need to take time to listen to those songs, learn the lyrics, and then kind of fall in love with those songs because initially I did like something about those songs when I first heard them. I've also seen viral news about Hayden Panettiere. She has done an interview where she's talking about the storylines being based on her life in Nashville. And so I haven't gotten a chance to read the full episode. I just saw the headline. But obviously, I know that in her personal life, she did have a lot of struggles around this time. And so it's very interesting to hear about her kind of like speaking out about that a little bit more. And so, yeah, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into the episode. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about our 5 key points. So for our first point, we have Maddie meeting and dating a guy named Jonah. So Jonah is basically a Justin Bieber type of character. He's this really popular singer actor, and he sees Maddie, falls in love with her, wants to date her, that sort of thing. They do officially meet at a show in LA. She's there with Scarlett as kind of like her chaperone. And so we see them kind of spending time together and just really taking the time to get to know each other. And Maddie is kind of annoyed because he has a lot going on. There's paparazzi following him, and so she's just not really used to the lifestyle that he lives. And so they do end up recording a song together, which is nice. And then they also do have like a date at a bingo night, and they're with older people. And they do this because it's really so hard for them to find time together where they're not always attracting like a big crowd, where he's not always attracting a big crowd. We also know that Jonah is still attached to his ex Mia. They, I think, made movies together and they're just really still kind of like caught up in each other. He can't fully shake her because she's claiming mental health issues and she's just really struggling with the breakup. And so he's kind of having to be sensitive to her while she is in this state, but he's also keeping Maddie in the dark. And so we do see him kind of juggling both women throughout the season. And we see that his friend, his crew, they are aware of everything that is happening. We also have Jonah's friend Twig, who likes Maddie, and he's not really happy with seeing how Jonah is treating her. And so we do see him getting closer with Maddie and really kind of like being her friend. And obviously, she's receptive to this relationship, but she's not aware of the extent of his feelings. And so we do have him eventually making a move on her, and she kind of has to politely reject him, and he doesn't take well to this, but he still wants to be her friend. Like he's able to kind of move on from the situation. We also have Deacon and Jessie. They try dating. So Jessie is a new character who was introduced. She's a singer. She was big, I think, a few years to 10 years prior, and then she just had this huge fallout, and so she's kind of restarting her life. And so she does have a famous and powerful ex named Brad, who is a complete jerk. Nobody likes him, and so we see the hard time that he gives her over their son, and she is just really struggling with the fact that she has to co-parent with this person. And just because I didn't say it, her son's name is Jake, and so we do see Jake having a lot of trouble as far as socializing with other people. We do see him becoming friends with Daphne, but that relationship is a little bit weird. But they do have something to bond over in that they have famous and successful parents. And so we do see Jake do this weird spoken word thing at some point during the talent show, and his dad doesn't react well to it at all. But I do think that it was brave that he kind of like put himself out there, especially with who his dad is and like the pressure that would have been on him to be like a great musician, if that makes sense. And so we really do see Deacon kind of stepping into this father role for him, or like this friend role, and just trying to encourage him to like be himself despite the fact of how his father is treating him. And then along with the fact that um, Deacon is dating Jessie, we do see Daphne struggling with this because she has just lost her mom, so she really feels like Jessie is coming in to kind of like replace her mom, and so she's just not happy about the fact that Deacon is moving on. And then going back to Deacon and Jessie really quickly, we do have at some point in this season we see that Brad has come to pick up Jake and he's trying to get Jake to go with him. I think at this point he wants to send Jake to boarding school, and then we do see that there's some type of altercation between Brad and Deacon is just really trying to control the situation and stop it from getting worse. And this just gives Brad ammo to take out all of his frustration or whatever on Jessie when it comes to their custody struggles because he doesn't have full custody, and so anything that she does wrong, he is using that against her. The second key point that we have happening is that Juliet gets involved with the religious group slash cult, and then she, through the process of being involved with that group, she is able to remember some childhood abuse that she suffered through. And so we know that Darius is the cult leader and he's the one who approached Juliet. She had been seeing his late night commercials, and then she at like 2:02 or something like that, she ended up seeing him in the lobby, and he's like, I recognize you, and he is saying that he recognizes the pain that she is going through at this point because we know that she has been through quite a lot, and so she's really buying into this message that he is selling her. And the fact that he is a top level person in this group that she's getting involved with gives her kind of like a false sense of kind of like bond with him, and so she's kind of missing all of the stuff that is happening kind of like at the lower levels because she's seeing how good everything looks from the top, and so we'll see that this is kind of going to backfire on her later. And so one of the things that she is told when she is developing this relationship with Darius is that the people around her are encouraging her bad behavior, and so he's telling her that she needs to like break free from that, and she really needs to invest in the religious group and kind of learn how to be a better person without those negative influences around her. We obviously know that this is not the truth. Juliet has plenty of people who are willing to stand up to her and tell her what she's doing is wrong. Avery is one of these people, so it was totally incorrect that the people around her just enable her. And then so from that, we know that Avery is not on board at all with her being involved with this religious group because he had a friend who has been part of a cult, and so he is a little bit more able to spot the warning signs that she is completely missing because she's just so wrapped up in this experience and having something to focus on. And then I do want to highlight that we do have a moment where Julia is able to recover these memories of this childhood abuse that she experienced. Her mom basically pimped her out to this Hugh Hefner type of person, and obviously that's a very traumatic experience. And so I think this for her is her aha moment for why she is the way that she is and why she really needs people to love her and to respect her because she didn't have that growing up. And then we do see a moment where Juliet, she is starting out at the beginning with this group. She's forced to help build a house and she has to do stuff that she's not accustomed to. And kind of like the next step of this process for her is going to Bolivia and helping people there to kind of start their lives over, whatever. And so we do see that she is supposed to return. I think she's only supposed to be there for 2 weeks, and she won't return. And so Avery is having trouble getting in touch with her. He ends up going to see her, and she just refuses to see him. They eventually do talk, and we get to the point where she refuses to leave, and he's not willing to bring Cadence to her. And so we kind of see this family being fractured and split as a result of her connection with this religious group. I also want to touch on a few other storylines happening around this time. So we have Scarlett and Gunnar, they're not dating, so not much is happening with them. We do see them kind of involved in their own storylines, and I felt like this was disappointing because I was really hoping that they would get back together. So we see Scarlett on this journey of doing equine therapy with horses. She's helping a guy named Sean who's a soldier with PTSD, and he's also a good singer. And so she spends this season kind of helping him rediscover his voice and kind of falling in love with music again because he had this experience where a friend of his was killed, and that person was like his musical partner, whatever. And so he has been really hesitant to kind of enjoy singing again because of everything that he's been through. And we do see Sean making a move on Scarlett, but she's purely just trying to be his friend. She's trying to help him rediscover music because for her, she really lost that with everything that she went through. And so she's able to kind of like kindly and politely reject Sean and send him back to his family because he was really struggling with his family life as far as his wife and his young child because of his PTSD. So they had to do a lot to get him to the point where he could function normally with his family. And it took a lot to get him there. So he's still not there, but he's a lot better than he was before Scarlett came into his life. And then the other thing I want to touch on is Will and Zach. And so we see Zach is dating a new boyfriend. He is going into politics, and we see that Will is kind of really frustrated with Zach because he chose his friends over Zach when it came to the branding that they were doing, stuff like that. And so he really just felt like Zach was being too hard on his friends, not doing the right thing. And so this caused them to split up. And now we have Will kind of regretting how that situation played out. And he wants Zach to give him another chance. But obviously, Zach is in a new relationship, and that's not an option at the moment. For the third point, we have Daphne. She joined a talent show, and I thought that this was interesting because obviously she should have the connection to kind of like bypass this experience. We usually see people who aren't famous and they're trying to kind of like jumpstart their career, go into like shows like this, especially with America's Got Talent and things like that. And so we see that Brad is basically running this talent show. He's like sponsoring it, promoting it, whatever. He's heavily involved. And so obviously he knows who Daphne is, and he's really playing on the fact of whose daughter she is and really trying to pressure her into writing and singing about her mom as a way to basically draw views to the show. And one thing that we see Daphne struggle with is she is comfortable with singing with her guitar, and the person who is like her mentor on the show or whatever wants her to come from behind the guitar and kind of work the stage a little bit more, and she's not comfortable with doing that. And so we do see her decide to do that in her final performance. And this is obviously huge for her because she was stepping out of her comfort zone, but we do see that she loses this contest. We also have Avery. He is obviously moving on from Juliet. He starts dating Alana, and she is a new member of the Lost Highwaymen band. So this is Avery, Gunnar, Will, and then now they're bringing in Alana to just kind of round them out and give them that person who can sing the high-pitched notes and lyrics and things like that. And so what happens is Alana starts hooking up with Gunnar, but it's not really serious. He likes her, but she doesn't really return his feelings like that. And so this causes him to feel rejection because she's not willing to be serious with him, and he really needs that type of connection. And so we do see Alana kind of like making a move on Avery, and she really wants to kind of bring him into her drama or whatever. And this was really annoying for me because she obviously knew that he had a lot going on. I feel like she just wanted to pursue someone who wasn't already pursuing her and just kind of win that challenge of trying to make somebody fall in love with her. So I really did not like her for that reason because Avery has already been through so much and he just didn't need that headache. And then we also see Will struggling with Alana being part of the band because she's the one who's getting all of the attention, and they do get a opportunity to sing on some show, and they're gonna sing two songs, but they want Alana to sing the lead on both songs, and so Will is mad about this. He's also taking steroids at this time, and so we see him collapse on stage, and nobody knows what's happened. People think that he has died, and so we know that he has a heart condition, I think, as a result of him taking the steroids when he was told to stop. And so we see him having to recover from that, and he's not supposed to be doing anything too stressful that can trigger him to fall out like that again. And then we have Alana, after working with the group, dating Avery, dating Gunnar. She ends up signing a solo deal with Shining New Records, which is Brad's company. And she ends up regretting this because she realizes that Brad is only giving her opportunities because he wants to sleep with her. So she ends up rejecting him. She loses those opportunities, and I feel like she got exactly what she deserved because even Jessie tried to warn her about what it was like working with Brad, and she thought that she knew everything and could handle the situation, and then it completely backfired on her. We also have Deacon's dad popping up, and so he's looking to make amends with Deacon, and they really struggle because they perceive Deacon's childhood differently. The dad feels like everything wasn't all that bad, and then Deacon just really hates his father for everything that he did to the family during his childhood. And so we do see this moment where Deacon's dad is giving Daphne feedback on Brad in the talent show. And he's basically telling Daphne not to take whatever Brad's saying, to talk back to him basically. And so Deacon walks in on the middle of this conversation and he thinks that his dad is telling Daphne to talk back to him. And so he lashes out and then Daphne has to correct him. And so Deacon is realizing that he's overreacting to his dad. And so we do see him getting help from his support group and really talking through and working through his feelings with his dad. They're able to make amends, but then we have Daphne realizing that the dad is still drinking, and then this causes an issue because they go to some outdoor concert or something like that, and Deacon tells Daphne to ride home with Gideon, and she does not want to get in the car because she knows that he's not fully capable of driving in that state, and so Deacon is quick to pick up on what's happening. He searches the car, he finds a bottle of liquor, he breaks it, and then he basically tells Gideon to get out of their life. And so that was a huge setback for Deacon and his father Gideon because he had been willing to move forward with his dad, and then his dad had this step back that really betrayed the trust of everyone in that family. And then one of the things that I wanted to point out between Deacon and Gideon is that they do have this moment where Gideon is trying to like basically take responsibility for Deacon's success, and he pushes back on this. And we do have this moment where Deacon follows Gideon, and because he thinks he's getting into trouble. And actually, Gideon is performing with his band in a garage, and so Deacon is forced to really acknowledge that he does get his musical talent and stuff like that from his dad. The fourth thing that we have happening is Juliet escapes the cult. And so we have Juliet in Bolivia. She realizes that she's pregnant. There's a woman there who is watching her because I think this woman collapsed or something like that because she was working in unfair conditions. Juliet tried to complain. The people in charge at that location, they basically were trying to brainwash Juliet into taking back her allegation, and she refused to do so. And so they had her locked up in her room. They wouldn't let her leave. They had another woman watching her, and that woman, her son was being threatened, and so she could not. She felt like she was not in a position to help Juliet. But then Juliet realized that she was pregnant and she really needed to escape, and so they basically hatched a plan to distract a security guard. They were able to get the keys to do something to get Juliet's passport so that she could leave. She sneaks out of a window. She's running down this random, isolated dirt road in the middle of a bunch of trees, basically. And luckily, a car comes by that's not affiliated with the farm in Bolivia, and so she is able to get on a plane and get back home. And so when she comes home, she ends up going to her house, and we see Avery and Alana making out on the couch. And so she has no real reaction to this because, she's left her family, she's left Avery several times, and so she is just like, you know what, I'm gonna stay somewhere else. You guys continue doing what you're doing. And so obviously Avery is thrown off by this because Julia is showing up out of nowhere, and then obviously this is his child's mother, and so he's a little bit more reactive to the fact that she's back than she was reactive to the fact of seeing him with another woman. And so Juliet, when she comes home, she makes it her mission to go after the movement, and she's having trouble with this because she's able to get in touch with Darius after multiple attempts, and basically he throws in her face that she signed a NDA and she can't talk about her experience in Bolivia. And so Juliet is really taking on the task of exposing them anyway, and to do so, she is going to lose everything. And so she has like a press conference. She talks about her experience in Bolivia, and then she also says that she is walking away from the music game. And so we do see this moment where she is basically packing up all of her stuff in a Nashville house. She bought a farm, she's relocating there, and then we have Avery kind of realizing and being told that she's pregnant, and she just lets him know that she doesn't want to influence his decision. She wants him to basically choose her for himself. She doesn't want to force him into it. And so we do see that they go their separate ways. The next thing I want to get into is Alana and Highway 65. So Alana has as I mentioned, signed with Shiny New Records. She's realizing that she's in a bad situation, and so she sets up this moment where she makes Brad think that she's going to sleep with him, and she has basically recorded him in that moment, and she's basically rejecting him. He's forcing himself on her, and he's also threatening to take stuff away from her. And so she is able to go to Highway 65 with her. There's actually a scene where we see her and Deacon actually planning this out. And so after this happens, we see Alana and Zach and Deacon, I think somebody else, they walk into Shiny New Records. They present all of this information to Brad, and they tell him that they're basically buying Shiny New Records for cheap so that they can expand their empire. We also see Jesse walk in with a bunch of women who used to work for Brad, who also had claims of sexual harassment and assault from Brad, and so we see that this is his downfall. And as a result of all of this, we have Jessie finally getting custody of Jake. This was something that she had struggled with all season long, and he was never willing to give her full custody. And so now that they have this stuff to blackmail him with, he is forced into giving up custody of Jake so that she can actually raise him properly and give him the loving care that he deserves. And he's not going to get that from Brad. We also have the progression of Twig and Maddie's relationship. So we had Maddie finding out that Jonah was basically playing both her and Mia essentially, and she ends up kind of like bonding with Twig over this. It seems for a while like they're actually going to get serious, but then she's talking to Scarlett and she realizes that she doesn't feel what she needs to for him. And so we see this moment where her and Twig are talking and she gives him this gift of very expensive headphones because he wants to be a producer. And so he even says, what is this? And then he realizes that this is a consolation prize because she's rejecting him and trying to give him something to basically ease the rejection. And so I was really mad at Maddie during this point because she made Twig feel guilty about his relationship with Jonah. He obviously was benefiting a lot from that friendship, and she made him basically give up that friendship only for it to not have worked out with them as far as dating. And so I feel like he really got the short end of the stick because he had a lot of connections through Jonah. He lived a great life through Jonah, and now he's really having to start over from scratch without any of those connections, without a support group and things like that. And so Maddie took all of that from him, and then to not even have that turn into a serious relationship or anything substantial, I think that that was a huge blow for him. I'm not sure if he would have eventually just gone back to Jonah and they would have made their amends and kind of just been like, bros before hoes or whatever. But hopefully that is what he ended up doing. And then lastly, I want to mention that we have Zach and Will. They end up making amends and they decide to get back together, which I think is really awesome because we know that Will was really regretful over how he handled that situation. And with Zach being brought back into the fold, obviously they should have been able to repair the relationship. And so I'm glad that Zach dumped his boyfriend, him and Will got back together. And for the fifth point, we have Deacon getting his own tour. So this was a huge thing because Deacon has always been a part of other people's tour. They were headlining, and he was just kind of like the guitarist that they hired to perform with them. And so the fact that he has the command to even have his own tour and be the headliner is really awesome. Like this is something that he's been working through all 6 seasons, and so I'm really happy that he was rewarded in this way. And so obviously with Deacon, he is not used to headlining and he's just really kind of, he wants to shy away from this opportunity, but you have everyone convincing him to do it because he doesn't know when he's going to get another opportunity like this, because we did see at the beginning of the earlier season, he was trying to go solo. He had a small record label behind him, but it wouldn't have propelled him to the status of Lena. And so him just having his own tour is really a great accomplishment for where he was in his career and what he has done leading up to this point. And so we do see Deacon at one of his tour dates, and the girls invite Gideon. I think this is when they were at the Grand Ole Opry, and so they invite Gideon to come, and Deacon isn't like receptive to this, But we do see this moment where Deacon is in like a waiting room or something like that, his dressing room, whatever, and we have Raina appear. And so we haven't seen Raina since she died in season 5. And so I knew that this was coming, and I'm really excited to see her come back in this way. We get to see their loving relationship again. We get to see Deacon and Raina be able to talk about a situation. She gets to give some advice, and they kind of get to have that bond that they had through the first 5 seasons. And so I was really glad that they brought her back in this powerful way because it really just solidified the bond that they had and just spoke to how much Deacon loved her and how much she loved him. And so we do see this moment where Deacon is eventually on stage and he's about to sing, and he ends up calling his dad Gideon onto the stage to sing with him. He's like, "Give that man a guitar," and he brings him up. And then we see this moment where Deacon is like, "Oh, Dad, do you know this?" And then his dad is like, "Son, I know all of your songs." So I thought that was a really powerful moment because Deacon is used to saying that to other people, and he's having someone say that to him, and it's his father, and it just makes everything come full circle with that relationship because he really hated his father in the beginning. They had that setback with the car situation with Daphne, and then here we are seeing them kind of reunite and kind of embrace each other again. I do want to wrap up one other storyline, and so we have Avery. He's still, I think, with the band, and we have this moment, I think, where he's on tour and he's at his last date, and we do see him with his bags going to Juliet's farm, and he has basically chosen to love her, just chosen to be with her again. And so this is a really powerful moment because we weren't really sure if this was going to happen just because of how rocky the relationship has been. And so I was really glad to see that he made his way back to Juliet because they really are perfect for each other. And it's really crazy because you saw that in the first season where he ran into Juliet in the hall and he was obviously really enamored with the fact that he was running into her and that she was famous. And then you see him get together with her and you see how their storyline plays out. And so I'm really glad that they came full circle as well. I also want to say that Juliet with the curly hair, she reminded me of how she looked from Remember the Titans. Obviously, she was younger, but I feel like I haven't really seen her with curly hair like that, and so it was just a really nice throwback. And to wrap up this fifth key point, we do see the series ending with this sing along. And so, as I mentioned, we have Deacon bringing his dad onto the stage to sing with him. We see, I think, the daughters, Maddie and Daphne, come out, and then we see somebody else come out, maybe Scarlett, and then we just see a bunch of actors come out, and then we see kind of like the camera pan out, and then we see like the audience get up and sit on the stage and sing with them, and Raina's there singing with them as well. And so I just thought that that was a really powerful way to end the series because everyone loved the show and it meant a lot to so many people. And the fact that they were able to have this type of send off, because you usually have shows get canceled kind of like in between seasons and they never get to wrap it up. And so I'm really glad that they got this opportunity to do that, and it was a powerful send off. And it actually reminded me of what they did in One Tree Hill. So in One Tree Hill, the person who sings the theme song is Gavin DeGraw, and so they had him sing live, and they had everyone in the audience, all of the actors, characters, whatever, singing along to the song, and so that was a really epic ending, and I'm glad that they had that for Nashville as well. Alrighty, so to go ahead and wrap up this episode, I again have to call out that I loved the way that they wrapped up this last season. The sing along was everything for me, and I'm really glad that I took the chance to watch this show and get out of my comfort zone because I learned some really great music. There was another show that I was interested in, which was Empire, and that's obviously more of R&B, hip hop, that type of music. And I actually didn't finish the series, and so I'm really glad that the musical series that I finished was Nashville because this really was an amazing show. And also, due to the way that I basically binge watched this TV show, when I finished, I had a lot of dreams about Nashville and the storylines. And so I really just want to call out to the fact that every time I finish a series, it always feels like I'm losing friends when I finish. And so it was really sad for me to realize that I had no more Nashville to watch. And so I hope that you guys enjoyed all of my recaps of each season of Nashville, and it was a really great experience watching the show. I still think about the show almost too much after finishing the last episode of the last season, and so yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening to me recap Nashville. If you haven't seen any of the series, definitely go ahead and check it out. Thank you guys for listening to this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.